Here we go. Okay, so we are recording. So, welcome to Second Sunday's conversation with Yolanda Pourciau. Yolanda is an amazing activist, speaker, and trainer, and this platform, the Second Sunday's conversation, is really about coming together, thinking about spiritual practice and how it connects to other kinds of practices, and really reclaiming also spiritual language and authority by learning through a diverse group of practitioners. For those who know me, you know that I recently published a book called The Reconception of Marie. Marie is a very curious, intellectually and spiritually curious character, to say the least. And this is sort of done in the spirit of her curiosity as well. So Yolanda, I wanted to begin by just having you tell us a little bit about your spiritual practice and evolution. So I know that, you know, since we're friends, I know that you've described yourself as a child and young person as having a real connection to spirit and to, you know, just loved going to church and singing. Then you had some experiences of real religious trauma, in addition to other kinds of trauma, racial, gender, trauma of just being in the world too, and that you were already navigating. But that experience of religious violence also was profound, and yet you've also. So could you talk a little bit about that, and then also finding your way back to spirit, or to sort of reclaiming your own spiritual authority and path?
Yeah, and so that's a lot, but let me just say this first about, let me just say this about the early church. I come from a background, I don't know if anybody else here is Southern besides for me, but the Black church especially is very heavy and committed to, you know, spirituality. And so I spent a lot of time in the church as a little girl. I mean, our services were really long. And so I was exposed to, I think, some of the world's greatest music, Teresa. And so some of it was spiritual, some of it was gospel, but all of it was deeply felt. And so I have to say that I was a fan of the church for most of my young life. The thing I think when I got the questions, the thing that really, if I can talk about an event that happened to me, I was a young woman, very much excited about Christianity in my 20s. I was at a school called Albany State. It's in Georgia. And I don't know if you other folks know anything about Georgia, but there's the South and then there's Georgia. And that's like the South, right? You know, in terms of context, Harriet Tubman, if you read anything about her story, you know, her and her people, they would be threatened to be sent to Georgia. So I thought if they got into trouble during enslavement. So I was raised, you know, in Georgia. And one of the things that happened was I was a member of an organization on campus called Religious Life. And I had a gift for reading the scripture and then talk about it. And I just loved it anyway. Right? I love scripture. And so I was a member of that organization, but I also had a girlfriend. I mean, I kind of knew that they didn't mix, but whatever. So I was going to Religious Life during the day, literally, and sleeping with this woman at night, sleeping with her, I guess, you know, hanging out with her, whatever. And so they found out. And they called a special meeting. And so everybody from Religious Life, and so you know how universities have different size rooms, and we usually met in a room maybe about the size of my living room. But this is one of those ones where you had seats going up and I know you know the fancy name for it. But anyway, it was a packed house, right? And so the woman who was in charge of Religious Life pulled out the Bible, and she said, turn to me to Romans. You know where we're going, right? I think it's one or two. And so when she started describing how in my mind, I thought God felt about me, right?
Mm.
And so in that scripture, they use these adjectives, but the only one I can remember, and every one of them, she had the whole audience repeat behind her, right?
Mm.
And so she said vile, and everybody went vile, talking about the mind that turns to homosexuality. And I'm just sitting there knowing that I'm the homosexual, you know, and I just started shaking, start shaking. A lot of really bad things happened. And what I think is so important about that, Teresa, though, is at that time, I couldn't distinguish their voice from the voice of God. And so
Mm.
I thought God had said, I'm done with you. And I think that was the most traumatizing experience I ever had, because I had gone to God to escape other abuse. And then it
Mhm.
was like, my God don't even want me.
Mhm.
So
Wow. That's so,
thanks
I'm
for the
sorry.
break on
It's
that.
so intense. That's just, yeah. So, yeah. So just want to validate that. It's so intense.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
very, very painful, you know,
Mhm.
and slowly, you know, I think I hate to mention the 12 steps, but they did help me,
Mhm.
because this idea of a God of your own understanding just kind of blew something up for me. Like, what are these people talking about? You know, at
Mhm.
first I just thought they all were going to hell, to be honest.
Mhm.
I heard people, you know, in AA and NA, they would say, you know, my God is uh Donald Duck. And I would be like, how can her God be Donald Duck and she clean? And so it was just like, poof, that
Right.
God is something more complex than what I had been taught. And that, I think, was the doorway to a spirituality that is just kind of my own making, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really powerful. The point that you make about being unable to distinguish the voice of God from the voice of
Mhm,
others, right? Like that might be, and also like that might have been the voice of their God, right?
mhm,
Like that's the God they're worshiping, but but I think that that's for those of us who have come through any kind of religious or spiritual abuse, but also just, to distinguish the voice from one's, abusive parent,
mhm, mhm,
right? From the
mhm,
from the voice of loving
mhm,
care inside you, right? Which would say is the voice of
mhm.
God, right? Like that light that's inside. But so you ended up, I mean, you have such a you ended up sort of starting to meditate at some point, and it seems like that practice of meditation and stillness has been fundamental and sort of super grounding for you. How did you well yeah, how did you start that, or like can you talk a little bit about your introspective practice?
You know, I'm smiling because, you know, I'm thinking about this word resonance, because this really silly drama used to come on, Dynasty. Do you remember Dynasty?
Yeah.
There was somebody that meditated or did yoga or something like that on Dynasty. And when I saw it, something in me just kind of was like, ah, that's interesting that people do that. And it just stored. Right?
Hmm.
That's resonance. Like, what's yoga? What is she doing? Right. And so little things start happening. A book here. I really started because I wanted to relax. And I had been diagnosed with so many different things, including post-traumatic stress.
Hmm.
And I was told that meditation could help. And so I started just listening to these little tapes that would have you like in the woods, and you know, you could imagine a light coming through you or whatever. And so I started sharing with friends that I was doing that, and they said, well, there's a meditation group here in town called Shambhala.
Hmm.
And so I joined Shambhala, and I was a very active member of Shambhala for 10 years. And then I took my practice home, and now I Well, I meditate to live. So
Absolutely. But I want to, again, it's like this, I love that you're like, spirit speaks through dynasty,
I know.
right? You know, that
Hey,
sometimes it's
spirit
so,
speaks, period, right?
spirit speaks, exactly. And so it's so interesting. I think so much about that process of coming into one's own intuition, right? Or,
Mhm,
or
mhm,
coming in intuition, which is really like the spirit part. It's like your higher
mhm,
self. That's the spirit. That is spirit, right? I
mhm,
think,
mhm,
but that it can come through, just this, all sorts of ways, right?
mhm,
And so to and to start to notice when one's interest, when one's
mhm, mhm,
something tingles, something's like, what,
mhm,
what is that?
mhm.
And that
I
could
like
be
tingles.
tingles. Yeah, it could be
Right.
a tingle of excitement, but it could also be a tingle of fear,
Mm,
right? It could be a tingle of like, oh, it sort of freaks me out.
mhm, mhm,
Oh, okay. Well, that tells me there's something going on there, actually.
mm, mm.
I mean, that's been my experience anyway.
No, I'm just taking it in, baby. Go ahead.
so, so, so,
Uh,
so you now, I mean, you offer these trainings, like, they're trainings, talks, and including for a whole range of folks, right? And so,
mhm.
both people where they're there voluntarily, and then I know you've also been working with the city of Tallahassee.
Uh-oh.
That's mandated trainings for, city employees like firefighters,
Mhm,
kinds of folks, right? And you bring these like introspective practices into those trainings. And, I'm so I guess just first of all, a kind of basic question, but like, why do you think that's important to incorporate meditation
mhm.
and introspective practices into trainings that are talking about diversity and inclusion, especially?
Well, because I feel like so a lot of times when you are a meditator, people in your imagination, you think maybe I'll get holy or I'll get good. But what you get is aware.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And sometimes what you become aware of, wow, right? But I mean, I won't go to that other place with awareness. But what I'll say is so when it comes to biases, really none of us really want to admit that we have them. It's kind of a private matter. And so what I try to ask the employees in the city of Tallahassee to do is to look at these dimensions of diversity and one at a time ask your own wisdom. Because even if you don't have a practice, if you go to the woods or you set a timer for 5 minutes and you get in silence and you say, how do I
mm,
really feel about Black people? Watch out, baby. If
mm-hmm,
you dare to put a question mark where we so often put a period, something that leaves a door for the universe to tell you about who you are. And one of the things that I say over and over to the people in the city, you know, we can't know your mind. But what we're saying is we have a department because we know that there is discrimination. We know that it's micro and macro. And so we're giving you an opportunity and some tools to use so you can search it out. But like my grandma always said, it don't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse. And the rinse is when we're in trouble. So if you
mm-hmm,
can apply emotional intelligence, the foundational component of emotional intelligence is building self-awareness, right? Self-awareness, self-management, self-motivation, then empathy, then managing others. And so much about emotional intelligence is this mastery of the self. Not that the self doesn't do anything wrong, but even in the doing wrong, you see it,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. I mean, your grandma, if it don't come out in the wash, it'll
If it
come out
don't
in the
come out in the
rinse.
wash, it'll come out in the rinse. What does
That's
that mean?
yeah, what does that
That
what
mean
does that mean?
so but basically that means you might get away with it, right? That's the
Mhm.
way, just a day-to-day activity. Next thing you know, you've hidden it, but then let's say you harass some woman. The rinse is you getting caught in your activity, right?
Absolutely. No, and I think of it as like unconscious bias, right?
Yes.
It's like the stuff
Hmm.
that's coming out that you're not even aware.
Hmm.
And so those kinds of microaggressions
Yeah.
too,
And
right?
sometimes it is we are aware, you know,
Mm,
I really talk about conscious and unconscious, but sometimes we are aware, we just don't want to think about it.
mhm.
You
Mhm.
know,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Um so so I love that. So so for those who might be it so I like over the last several years I've been bringing meditation into my
Mhm.
classroom practice, for example.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I that technique, it was actually at a was first suggested at a training that I attended on bringing a racial equity lens
Mm.
to the classroom. And the trainer, Heather Hackman, was suggested this, followed by questions for
Mm.
people to engage with as small groups, introspectively. But she was adamant, and I think she's right, that every single topic that we teach in the university can be traced back to the history of capitalist slavery, and
Mm.
is built on the backs
Mm.
of Black folks, right?
Oh
Basically.
Lord, are
And
we
so there
going there?
it's always relevant. Well, but anyway, we're going to go there in a little bit. But I wanted to, but it's curious to, I think so I've been bringing this meditation practice into the classroom, but for
Mhm.
people who
Mhm.
might want to bring a kind of meditation or introspective practice to their own speaking engagements, or their
Mm.
own,
Mm.
whatever their
Mm.
public practice is,
Mhm.
what that meditation is just one way, but what kind of suggestions, or can you talk a little bit about that? Like, how might one go about that?
Well, I've already talked about resonance, right? And
Hmm.
so, I really believe people should try a lot of things, although I'm such a fan of silence that I think that people should find a way to get real quiet, right? And I'll just say this, even though I don't know how deep I can go into it, it's like in the early stages with meditation, there is a component of relaxation. There's boredom, there's pain, all of that kind of, right? And so, but the next thing, at least for me, that I became aware of after meditating regularly is like, I have a breath, I breathe. Do you know what
Mm,
it's like to breathe all the time and then to be, how am I breathing? To really start
mm,
getting seriously the miraculousness of your own existence, right? But the other thing that happens at some point is that, and you know this because you and I talk about this all the time, is that you come to know that you are observer energy.
mm,
And meditation is a microcosm of that because you're observing everything, the body, the mood, the emotion. And so I've been checking out Star Trek or Star Trek with Janeway. Is that the one? Voyage.
I know.
The boy. You don't know
The
anything about
Voyager. Yeah, yeah.
Star
It's
Trek
all.
Voyage. Well, I mean, to me, it's just so important because it's one of those other things where this character in Star Trek is 7 of 9, and that was part of my awakening too. There's a character
Mm,
called 7 of 9. She's part human. She's part bored. And I
mhm,
remember years and years ago checking that out and thinking, because she had at night she has to go regenerate because she's part machine. And I remember thinking, how do I regenerate?
hmm,
And so these things that we understand intellectually, that makes us think we're doing it. And I think there's something about not intellectually getting it, but coming to this sense of what in the hell is going on in this thing called life. It's like, whoa,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trillions of things are happening just in this body. What is doing it? And that, all those years of church, nothing woke that up like my own silence and sitting with myself over and over and over again. And life opens up this other way of knowing. They're different awakenings, but that's a form of awakening when you get that you're not your personality. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit. Just a little bit. When we get that, the spirit can work with that and open up something that we can't even imagine what it would be.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I just got excited.
No, there's no need to. I love that. You know, so which actually leads me to another question, which is around this, you know, using stillness and silence as the source of also creative processes, right? You know, so I feel like I've learned a lot from you in this regard, that when it's like you're preparing for something or you have some new idea coming in, and it can be coming in very fast and heavy with the intellect, but that really it's like you know, that you have this process too of sitting down and letting things come up through stillness.
Well, I feel like right now I should say something in all fairness, because I've been through a lot of trauma therapy. And not a lot, but I went through a therapy called EMDR. It's really intense. It's for people with I was diagnosed with PTSD. And so the reason I'm saying that is because so much of the relief I have is related to that, right? And so I don't want to give people the impression that I meditated my way through trauma. You know what I mean? Because I didn't. I was weeping and wailing. I was weeping and wailing. I was screaming and calling for God. Right? So I want to say that first. But the other thing I want to say is, after being, you know, I felt pushed out of the church. I longed for it, because that's part of the African American tradition. It's a big part of how we survived the trauma and the torture. And so as I began to heal, so I'm answering your question by saying everybody needs to tune into their own particular little thing. But in the searching for it, the spirit gives you something. And so my old songs start coming to me, and especially, and you know this because I do this all the time, but you know, sometimes before I'll speak, I might sit in silence, and then I need thee, oh, I need thee every hour, I need thee. This comes from way back, right? Oh, bless me now, my Savior. So it's like I'm singing because I need. And so I'm just rocking and singing and just open. Because I know that if I think God is the highest version of myself, I ain't got no God. And so I'm opening up to all of the surprise, all of the unknown, all of the beauty. And that song is just my way of saying to God that I kind of understand, but don't care to necessarily all the way. I need thee. Something supernatural needs to come in, because I want to give a message. Speak to me, speak through me, and then show up and try to drop it. That's the process for me. But I think it's in my bones genetically, you know what I'm saying? That's the thing. Sometimes when you're traumatized, you cut off from your own ancestry, the good part of it. The good part of it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. No, and thank you, because that is, I know we've spoken a lot about EMDR and other kinds of therapy, and I've had lots of therapy. And, I always tell my students, if you want to be a writer, get therapy, like find a good therapist. But there's so many
Good one.
different kinds too, of therapy. And, and it's, that process of recovering also, that little girl part of you, right? Or the little one part of you that has often, been told that she's not worthy of being around, right? And that is I don't know, that is a supernatural event. I mean, I love it that my therapist that I have now uses, as she says, woo woo practices. So she'll speak from her intuition, or will use, other kinds of like, it's not EMDR, but we'll use like sand tray and other kinds of play techniques to get it, to approach things in a different way. And it's amazing. So, yeah.
It's that internal family. I know you know about internal family systems theory, right? With my little girl, it was through that, because I have The Body Keeps the Score,
Yeah.
the book, and on Audible, because I need it. Anyway, I was listening to that. And so I really started taking seriously this exiled child, right? And so this is going to sound strange because I'm kind of a lesbian, but I was dating a guy at one point.
Yeah, it's
a long story.
It's all good.
It's a long story. I knew that was going to be funny. But anyway, so I only tell you about
kind of part that's funny. Like, okay, so anyway, you're dating a guy.
I wasn't fully in it.
It's
Teresa.
all good. It's all good. It's all good.
But I'm only telling you that to kind of set the stage for what happened. So he and I were going through some stuff, and I had the inclination to harass him about hearing me out. You know what I'm saying? You ever heard of that? Harassing somebody, you got to hear me out. And so I noticed it. It was like, my little girl is upset. And so I was like I felt it as a 12-year-old presence in my mind, right? And she was it was like, he's gonna leave us. Give him what he wants. Be good. Just like I could just hear the voice. If you don't, we're gonna be in trouble, and nobody wants just all that. And I said to this little girl, me, look, we can do a lot of different things. One thing that we can't do is we can't call him or bother him or get into anybody's face, something like that. What else can we do? And I heard in my mind's eye her say, will you buy me a stuffed doll? And so we went to Books A Million. I bought these dolls, these stuffed animals. It wasn't dolls, these stuffed animals. And I got in the bed and I held the animals and I just cried. I just cried, But it was so good because it was me taking responsibility for that little girl. And I think so often in our interactions with other human beings, we're throwing our children in their hands and they can't handle their own damn child.
Yeah.
And nurture my own baby. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. No, and that, I think that's also, I think that's also goes back to why introspective practices are so important in these kind of like wellness and diversity and just in our ways of being together. It's
and just being sweet too, because I always, when you're Black, I want to talk about Black for just a minute. When you're a Black girl, it's a little bit different than being a white girl. This is me generalizing. But in my limited research, I hear more white women say they're taught to be nice. And I was taught to be safe, right? And safety sometimes means you guard yourself. You know what I mean? That's how you survive your world. But after a while, though, it's just piled up. You just guard it, you guard it, you guard it. There's no room for a softness. And I think what has happened for me in spirituality as Spirit has connected me with woods,
Mm-hmm.
sky, and ocean as an expression of me too. Spirit has expanded me to be so much more than I am.
Mm.
I don't even know why I'm saying that except to say that, you know, to be Black and non-religious is really hard, but spirit is bigger than that. All right.
Absolutely.
To be beaten and abused and raped and ignored is hard, but spirit is bigger than that. And so I like to talk about my healing because, as Marianne Williamson says, sometimes we have too many examples of the crucifixion and not enough of the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on the third day, that's what EMDR did for me. On the third day, I was light. It was something about it. It lightened me up. And it was a real investment in myself. And so I just encourage people to start, if you're interested, by just saying, what turns me on spiritually? What resonates with me?
Mm-hmm.
Reveal it to me and watch how the universe will respond to you. I have felt so, and Teresa, I know you know this, but I have felt so emotionally homeless. And my connection with spirituality, I don't know, I'm just really the not aloneness. So if you say something like, oh God, for instance, I'll do my dog and then I'm going to shut up because Teresa, I said to Teresa, I want a dog. I'm scared of dogs. I'm not really, it ain't a Black thing, but I wasn't really raised around no dog, but I knew I wanted one day. And Teresa told me, Yolanda, take a test. It was also take a test. I took the test. The test told me I needed an English Cocker Spaniel. I wish I could show you my dog, but he's asleep. I just felt like when I see my dog and the visions that I had for what I wanted for, it's just one way the universe is always saying, I love you so much, girl. Why is the universe saying, I love you so much? Because I am saying, I love you so much, and I am the universe. I'm going to shut up.
No, I love that. Absolutely. I mean, I could listen to you actually talk all day. And we've spoken at different
Yeah.
points a lot about rising, like bringing women up into leadership in spiritual communities,
Mm.
Um, so, and I don't, so I'm thinking about that as you're speaking. I'm like, yes, like here, please, we need to hear your voice more. I'm also thinking about, I'm trying to like look at the time and see if there's any questions coming in too. But I did want to talk about, in terms of leadership, right? You have done a lot of work building intersectional communities and also doing trainings to different kinds of organizations. And we've talked a lot about how, oftentimes in nonprofits or in, like the domestic violence and sexual assault world, there might be like all white leadership.
Mm.
And and as we were sort of preparing for this, I also said, yeah, and in my whole lifetime as a white feminist, my white feminist lifetime, also, that's been this ongoing conversation about like, how do we diversify the leadership, like knowing intellectually that it's important, but then there's this question, there's this other thing that doesn't happen. And I just want to I just want to create some space to talk about that too. I remember at one point you saying to me, like, well, are you building relationships outside of just, trying to get somebody to come on? Like, so
Mhm,
there's the
mhm.
thing of actually like creating authentic, genuine relationships as being that are, you know, about listening too, but I just want to talk about this because I know that this is something I just know that this is something we've been talking about a lot lately and you've been thinking a lot about lately too.
Trying to
Yeah.
think of what I want to say.
Yeah.
um, I we were talking earlier about awakening,
Mhm.
and I feel like I've had kind of a awakening in terms of my ability to see structurally, which is weird because I teach sociology. But I'm gonna take a risk and just share something with you. I feel like a lot of the two marriages, but especially the last marriage I had, both of my marriages have been with white women, and I wonder how much that has been about the comfort that white women have. That's a, I just want to throw it out there because I think that's important. Because part of the
Mhm.
awakening for me is to step back enough from the benefits of my connection to white people to genuinely assess structures, right? Does that make sense? Sometimes when you're benefiting
Mhm.
from a relationship, you don't want to
Mhm.
inventory it, right? And so I'm guilty of that. I've been spoiled by a lot of white people, but the spirit has said, I don't care how
Mhm.
much you like them, you're gonna tell this truth. And the truth is, the truth is
Mhm.
this. And so right now, I think I told you Delaware took this training. So I'm doing this training in Delaware. This training is called Hurt. Hurt looks at structural torture, abuse, rape of just Black women, the
Mhm.
sanctioned legal torture, rape, family separation. And what it does is it gives people an opportunity to look at Black bodies, Black female bodies went through this for 300 years. We went through 89 years of Jim Crow, which was just murder,
Right.
lynchings, whatever. And now we call that the green zone. So the first is red, the second is yellow. Now we're in the green zone, but the green zone has what we call the new Jim Crow, based on this, prison industrial complex. And why do we have ghettos in the richest country in the world? So let's drop that and say that there has not been a reckoning, a healing between Black women and white women. And white women, um, we are unique. Black women are unique in that we delivered all of the unpaid labor to America. Every single body we delivered, all of America's unpaid labor. White women are unique in that they delivered every white supremacist. I tell that every one of them is your cousin. And so it's a funky
Mhm.
situation to be in that you got to have some real genuine conversations about that. Because Black women know that you watch every step of the way.
Yeah.
And now that we have some freedom, I think white women have to look at their leadership and deal with our inclination to compete and consume and be individuals. Individualism is a lie. And
Mhm.
competition is part of the reason why we're dying from heart disease now, right? It's like easy
Mhm.
does it. So I'm hopeful though, because I try to picture what I want. I try not to picture what I don't want as much as I do what I want. So I love it if you picture it with me. Harmony between Black women, white women, and other women in this country. But I think there's going to have to be some apology, some begging of pardon. 300 years of state sanctioned rape
Yeah.
and torture and family separation.
Yeah.
Amends must be made.
Mhm. Absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
I'll just say this one thing: there's in the city of Tallahassee, in the state of Florida, we have 42 shelters of domestic violence. 95% are run by white women. Now, before we change that, I wish those white women would get together and at least on Facebook come together and create a campaign where they're saying, we believe in justice, we're committed to it. We see what has happened historically and what's happening now. And we are with you, Black women and other women of color. We are committed to making this the example, something bold like that. But white women's response to all this stuff has been very tepid. It feels like a Me Too. I don't like Me Too personally. I'm more of a, you did this. We need to be talking about what men do to women, not Me Too. Stop it.
Yes. So, and so thank you for that. And I see that there's a question in the chat that I want to get to, but I just wanted to also say that that's also comes back to this introspective meditation practice, right? Because I think like, you know, those questions that you're asking, that what you said, turn it from a statement to a question mark, right? From a period to a question mark, you know, and just these basic things of even, well, why am I having a head trip about my colleague who is like Black? What am I expecting from her that's different than what I would expect from this white guy, you know? And like letting that, and then shifting that, you know, I mean, this is, we've had, so anyway,
it's hard work. It's hard work. It's very hard work.
It's hard work, and it's hard, I think, to build. It's the trust building is hard. You know, I think that there's also that piece about building trust with yourself, but also building trust in community across difference, like genuine difference. So not, you know, and so that you can, you know, to talk to people authentically and ask, you know, be like, is this a issue? And having, you know, I saw some weird, I don't even know what it was, like some clip of some, maybe it was like The Real World or something, where this guy was like, said to this, it was like the 90s, and he said something, he said like, that's racist. And she said, you're calling me racist. And he's like, 'cause you are, you know? And it's like, to be able to actually have that conversation and be like, and, you know, that's racist. Oh, thank you for pointing that out, and let me go and deal with that internally.
And do it in love, right? It's like,
yeah,
if you have a prejudice, you probably just learned it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so what you want to do is kind of address it. I won't tell you that. I won't tell you that. I don't have time. My story string too long, so I'm not even going to try to do
I know,
that.
and you have all your sociology, your training as a sociologist here too. But I do want to say there's one question here in the chat, which is Sila asking if for Yolanda to talk about COVID pandemic has revealed to you about spirit or spirituality. So we'll take that and then we'll pull cards. So has COVID, the pandemic, revealed to you about spirit?
I don't know. I'm hearing that from Sila. Sila don't know how much I know about her and feel intimidated. But so what? I don't know. I guess the only thing I can say about that is the time alone. It's just been so good, and I think that part of, I shouldn't say, I know for some people it's lonely, but turning that into solitude and using it as a time to go in. You know, in 12-step groups, they have inventory steps. Like step 4, I think. Step 4, you do an inventory. And so a lot of people in the meetings are like, oh my God, I hate to do this. You know, they don't want to do that step because they think it's just so much nasty and yucky and they don't want to deal with it. Yes, but underneath that though, right? And that's the part we can't get to for, you know, being afraid. You got to go through it. You got to, you know what I mean? We just have to go through it. You know, I don't even know what we were talking about just then, but Sheila was asking, what did she ask the question about? I forgot.
She was asking about what COVID, the pandemic, has revealed about spirit or spirituality.
I know. I know. It almost feels like one of those prophetess kind of questions. All I know is quiet is good. And the other thing is people can work at home. And this doesn't seem like a spiritual matter, but it is a spiritual matter. Because I think we're going to find out that people can take care of themselves better if they don't feel like they have to go somewhere and drop themselves in some kind of energetic space that's not necessarily conducive for them. We can be individuals, entrepreneurs, and seek wellness in the safety of our homes. That's about all I can give on that question, Sheila.
No, that's great. That's great.
I really enjoyed you in the event.
In the monthly divination. Yeah.
I love that. I enjoy that so much.
Yeah. Encourage everyone to attend those.
Are you gonna pull your card?
Yeah, I think it's, well, I'm looking at the time. So we have 4 minutes left. We can go a little bit over, but I want to be mindful of time. Okay. And so we like to end with pulling cards that's sort of a message for the community. And I felt moved to use this other deck today that I haven't, not my usual deck, but it's this Modern Witch tarot deck that Lisa Sturl drew. So it's sort of a variation on the Rider-Waite-Coleman Smith, but it has different, she's figuring these as different figures, but that's not the card I pulled yet. So, so I'm going to pull a card, and you're pulling a card too.
Well, I pulled mine. I don't want to cheat.
No, that's not cheating. Okay. That's not cheating. Okay. So, do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I thought it was cute. I pulled first, Teresa. I have been exposed to tarot before, but Teresa got me this book, and you can tell it's raggedy, right? Because I use it. So the first time in my life, I really connected with cards. And so I just love Teresa for that, because how magical. Anyway, I pulled the Speaker of Birds, right? Which is about, speaking truth, power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also I would imagine it has a oracle connotation, right? As the Speaker of Birds, the bird as an oracle. So being willing to listen into spirit and to speak the message that the universe is coming, that is coming through all of creation, or through that winged creation.
Yeah, I know she loved words.
Okay, so the card that's coming up out of this deck, that's a message for the community here today, is this one here, the Queen of Pentacles. Okay.
Did you really pull that?
Yeah, this is what I pulled, the Queen of Pentacles. And so this is, I can hear, we're just talking about Sela a lot, but I can hear Sela's voice here saying, like, this is the kitchen witch, right? This is like the person who is thinking about their home and and what materials and resources they have on hand in order to make their magic. And the magic is really about calling in calling in the gifts and the energies and the space, right? Like the space inside of you, but also the space that you're inhabiting. Like, what kind of space do you want to be in? If you want to be
at this. Oh, sorry.
if you want to be in a space, if you want your life to be joyful, then you get to call that in, and you get to call that in internally. And as it becomes manifest internally, it will become increasingly manifest externally. There is also a message right here, though, about it's like, it's saying there's something about, like, between the goat and the rabbit. I don't know what this exactly means. Between the goat and the rabbit. So that people can take that phrase and and do some meditation on it, and the kinds of
No.
connotations.
Between the goat. Where'd she go? She's gone for good. Where is Shameka? Did we lose everybody but me? Where's Riri?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Yolanda?
I can. Who are you, Sarah?
Okay, good. Yeah, it's me. It's Sela. I think we might be
Sela.
having
Hey,
some
Sela.
technical issues. Hi. This has been amazing.
Oh,
I
thank
took 4
you.
pages of notes.
No way.
I'm so sorry. Yes way. Apologies. I think we might be having some technical issues. I think we've lost Teresa and Shameka.
Oh, no.
So
Hey,
I know. Are you here, Shameka?
I'm here.
I'm not sure. Okay, Shameka's here.
Yes.
I'm so sorry we lost Teresa. But I will just
Probably
say
having a fit.
I know. Bless her heart. I know. She is beside herself right now. I just want to say this was a blessing of an hour. And thank you. I think we're about at our time. So I'll be fake Teresa for a minute and just say thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank
As
you.
Connie said in the chat, thank you for your spiritual insight and political and emotional brilliance. I couldn't agree with that more.
Wow.
And thank you to it's true. I really this hour was a blessing, and I felt that there were a lot of messages, and you are welcome to come and join us at Four Queens anytime. And on behalf of Teresa, I will just say thank you all for coming, and a big thank you to Shameka, who is a co-producer of this series and does so much to make this space happen. We're so grateful for Shameka as well. So we'll go ahead, and since we're about almost a few minutes after 5, and just and wish you well as you drift back into your evening.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, Yolanda.
All right, thank y'all.
I hope to
see y'all soon.
talk with you again soon.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye everyone. Take care. Hi. I think, is Teresa there?
Oh my gosh, what
Honey?
happened?
Florida. Florida strikes again.
I know. So did the
Oh, hi. You want to come say hi? Come here.
did everybody just get booted out, or what happened?
Oh no, we did a proper goodbye.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hey, Monet.
Yeah,
Hi,
you want to say hi?
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Monet.
That was wonderful.
What?
Let's see,
Wait,
she
I want to
can't hear
show
you.
this
Let
to
me put
Monet.
Uh-oh.